I hate to break it to you, but your teleprompter is making you look like a hostage reading a ransom note, and your viewers can tell. This video has no script, and by the end, you'll know exactly how I'm doing it and why your prompter is costing you clients. Okay. I just can't do it. I can't do it. That's what a teleprompter does to your delivery. For a discerning eye, and as you get better at recognizing this yourself, you will be able to notice the tiny little eye movements that are a dead giveaway that the person you're watching is using a teleprompter. So why are teleprompters so bad? In this video, I'm going to teach you 3 things that your brain and your eyes are doing when you're using a teleprompter that are scientifically proven to actually reduce trust with your viewer. And the exact 3-step method I developed during my years on TV as a news reporter that you can literally steal to make your videos better without having to read a word on screen. But first, let me show you something kind of creepy. Watch my eyes. Just watch. And by the end, you'll know exactly how I'm doing it and why your prompter is costing you clients. You see that? Once you see it, you can't unsee it. When I started coaching entrepreneurs on how to be more effective storytellers and speakers on video, I banned teleprompters. And guess what? They got better faster. Here's the analogy I want you to think about. It's the equivalent of using training wheels on a bicycle. There's nothing wrong with that, and it helps you get the rhythm of it, but ultimately those training wheels have to come off at some point. Why? Because you're going to end up going live. You're going to be in front of people on a stage. You're going to be on a call where you can't have a script because you don't know what's going to happen. So the sooner you start to build that muscle, to develop that ability to actually speak to a camera without having the words right in front of you, so you actually speak like a normal human being would, and you don't have that crutch to fall back on to keep you balanced, the faster you take off those training wheels, or if you don't use them at all in the first place, the faster you will become a natural speaker on video. And the more credible and authentic a speaker you will be, imagine you're on a podcast, or you're on TV, or you get this amazing visibility opportunity as an entrepreneur, and you've spent your whole time reading a teleprompter. What are you gonna do? People are going to feel the disconnect between teleprompter you and the you who shows up. So the sooner you can rip off those training wheels, or I recommend don't use them at all in the first place, the sooner you will be able to speak just like this, just like I am. It comes with practice. Now, if you're not sure if you want to believe me, let me tell you, I was not only in your position once, it was actually worse. I was a television reporter, and the first assignment that I had on my very first day was to go live in front of the camera and talk about the story that I was covering. I was scared. Sure, I had, some notes that I could look at, but how many news reporters have you seen on TV who look at their notes and then look up? None that are professional or worth watching, right? So that's exactly what happened. I had no choice but to learn live in the field, and often with people behind me or people watching me because I was out in public. I had no choice but to learn this skill of speaking to a camera without the ums and ahs and, stumbles and all of that. There was no starting over. There was no retake. It was just whatever came out was what went to air. And I had to make sure not to swear either. And you know what I learned during that period? Those times when I was live, off the cuff, just telling people what was going on, just telling it like it is, those were my best stories. Those were the ones that viewers would write me about. The ones where I had to think on my feet, not read. So that's what I want to challenge you to do in this video. Now, please hear me out. I am not saying that you don't script your videos at all. I am a big proponent of scripting the opening, the hook, the intro of your video. So that's at least the first 30 seconds. And the outro or extra or ending of your video, which is like the last 30 seconds. Why? Because those are the critical moments where your audience is either deciding to watch the video in the first place or deciding whether to watch the next video, because we're always pushing to another video at the end of our YouTube videos, right? So you want to script that. You want to know exactly what you're saying. And if you happen to be off by a couple of words, that's fine. As you get better and better at this live to tape or live to camera speaking, you are going to naturally just be able to riff off of what you write. There is a hack for this though. you can actually chunk down what you're saying. Just remember one sentence at a time. Right now, I'm filming on Ecamm, and every time I need to refer to something, I can just either pause or I can cut out the silence or the stumble or the or whatever it is that I had to say to get to the next point. So chunk your content. This is for the intro, which you memorize, so to speak, but it's also for the meat of your video. So if you script the intro and the outro, what do you do in the middle? Well, this is where your true skill of speaking to a camera without the training wheels is going to come in really handy. You're going to have your main points, your bullet points of what you want to say. And then you just set up your camera and talk about those points one at a time. But also try to be disciplined with yourself. If you feel yourself veering off topic, then just pause. Go back to what you wanted to say, maybe do another take, especially if you kind of glued your words together and you didn't leave like a clean ending to your last sentence. You can always edit it out later. I'm a big fan of the editing software Descript, and one of the great things about Descript is you can actually remove those long-winded sections that you don't want with the simple click of a button. Here's the thing about your eyes when you speak rather than read words at people. When you read, your eyes do this micro-scanning thing. Left to right, line to line, your blink rate drops by 60%, and your pupils dilate differently. Now, your viewers don't consciously notice this, but their lizard brain does. They don't know quite what's off, but they can feel it. It triggers the same response as when someone lies to you, not because you're lying, but because you're not present. You're reading at them, not talking to them. And in 2026, when AI can generate the perfect scripts, even fake faces. Hi, I'm AI Shirley. The script can even fix your eye contact if you're not looking at the lens. And let me tell you, it's kind of creepy too. The only thing that truly screams authenticity is human presence in its rawest form. But here's the part that made me really ban teleprompters from anybody I help with on-camera presence. If you're a coach, a consultant, an entrepreneur, you are literally being paid for your expertise. You're a thought leader. You should just know your stuff, right? And if you're gonna coach them on a call or you're gonna help them with your services, then you should know your stuff without having to consult something written, right? When you write out every single word you're gonna say, you're telling your brain, I don't actually know all of this, so I have to memorize it in order to sound like I know what I'm talking about. It's like being a chef who has to read every single line of a recipe that's their signature dish. Your audience can taste it. Remember I said I would tell you what's happening in your brain when you read a teleprompter? Here it is. When you speak in depth about something you know, your brain fires differently. You're accessing memory and language at the same time. That creates natural inflection, natural pauses, and natural enthusiasm. But when you read, you only use the visual and basic language processing parts of your brain. You're decoding symbols. It's the same brain activity as reading a takeout menu. Your passion is getting filtered through the wrong neural pathway. And then you wonder why your videos aren't connecting or landing or getting you clients for your business. Now, some of the pros have really mastered this teleprompter talking thing, but they have massive audiences. They have been doing this for a long time, and they have literally commoditized content creation. They have it down to a science. Their audiences are more forgiving because they are really big experts in their field, and when you get them live, they're just as effective. But when you're at the stage that you are trying to grow your presence, grow your audience, and get out there and get known for something, you don't want to be known as the person that reads their stuff in videos. Because information without energy is just a blog post or something that someone can get from ChatGPT. People want to hear your opinions, your perspectives, that, moment of magic that comes to you as you're delivering to a camera. All of that gets lost when you're too married to something that you're reading. But you may also be wondering, great, so what's the alternative then, especially if you're not at the point that you can just get out there and talk to a camera off the cuff. I'm going to teach you the exact system I used when I was covering everything from natural disasters to election results to the woman who had turned her house into a bird sanctuary. It's stupidly simple. Let me explain. What I suggest you do rather than trying to memorize lines is that you give yourself trigger words. I can look at those trigger words, skim my notes, say that piece to camera and then stop or pause, review my notes, and then say the next thing. You already know what you want to say. You wrote it, right? You just need a map, not a manuscript. This only works if you're not live. Now, I do want to make one clarification here. There are moments in your video where you're not going to be on camera. There is nothing stopping you from reading your lines when you know you're going to put B-roll on top of what you're saying. In fact, I encourage you to do that. Now, I still want you to practice how you're speaking when you're reading your notes, because if you switch between speaking to the camera off the cuff and then reading your notes, something is going to be off in your voice and people are going to hear that. But there is nothing stopping you from looking right at your notes as you're talking when you know that something else is going to be on the screen instead of your face. Especially if you are recording something that you can edit later, it just allows you to practice speaking things out loud, because often what you're writing on your page or on the screen is not exactly how you talk anyway. So practicing it out loud is one of the best things you can do to get more comfortable and be a better speaker on video. Remember how I told you that your blink rate drops by 60% when you're reading? Here's how you fix that. Look at your notes, say one complete thought to the lens, stop talking, full stop. The pause between the thoughts, that's where you edit. That's when you can blink, you can breathe, you can kind of roll out your shoulders. This is going to sound counterintuitive, but perfect speech actually is sounding fake these days. If you never pause, you never say, you never blink a few too many times or move in a certain way, it's going to look like AI. AI is that good. That's when your audience starts to feel like things are maybe a little bit too perfectly scripted and they know they're being read to or sold to. So allow yourself some natural screw ups. The little quirks that make you you. They actually help with your authenticity rather than hurt. I'm not talking about saying every other sentence, because that's really going to turn people off of your videos. But don't be afraid to let them slip in every once in a while if that's how you talk naturally. It also signals that you're actually thinking as you speak, which is something you wouldn't do if you were using a teleprompter. That's the difference between a presentation and a conversation on video. And conversations, that's what converts. And in 2026 and beyond, your business is not only going to need that speaking muscle, it will depend on it. Trust me. A podcast host isn't going to appreciate if you're reading things off a teleprompter. More and more podcasts are here on YouTube, and they're going to expect you to appear on camera. You can't use a teleprompter for a keynote speech. It's even frowned upon to have verbatim notes written on your slides. That live you need to promote your launch or your next product, or perhaps that interview you're hoping to land, no script. Every time you use a teleprompter when you record, you are choosing short-term comfort over long-term capability. And I get it. The first time that you speak without a teleprompter or without a script in front of you, you're going to stumble. You're going to say, you're going to screw up live on TV. No, that was me. You'll forget your lines, and it's okay, because you can always pause and do it again. Good. This is the feeling of learning, your brain building new pathways. Okay, so here's what I want you to do this week. Record one video using 3 bullet points, just 3, not 3 paragraphs, 3 trigger words. Film it in chunks. Look down at your notes, look in the lens, say what you need to say. If you want to say it again because you didn't like how you said it the first time, that's fine. Keep going. Edit out the pauses later and then just post it. I promise you, nobody will know the difference except you. If anything, your viewers will see that you are more engaging than maybe when you were reading with a teleprompter, or perhaps before when you didn't really think about your presentation as much as we've talked about in this video. So what do you think? Did I convince you not to use a teleprompter, or are you still team teleprompter all the way? Let me know in the comments. Oh, and one more thing that I promised earlier. You might still be thinking, Shirley, that's fine, but I totally blank every time the camera comes on. I've got a full video. Check it out, and you will be better at speaking right away.